Remember when James Cameron nearly directed a Spider-Man movie?
What about when we almost got Batman Year One with Joaquin Phoenix?
Or David Goyer's Flash movie that would have starred Ryan Reynolds?
Well, if you want to learn about all the unmade superhero movies, then check out Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
Hosted by Ben Wan and Alex Ramsey, every month we cover nostalgic superhero movies with deep dives into unmade scripts, early drafts, deleted scenes, alternate cuts, concept art, novelizations, and tie-in novels.
We also interview the people involved in making the superhero films of our childhood, with our past guests including superhero actors, directors, screenwriters, and concept artists.
So remember, that's Superhero Stuff You Should Know, or Superhero SYSK on social media. Check us out on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Katie, I had a question.
Okay.
What would Jesus do?
Oh boy, here we go.
I was thinking about this phrase that you and I have definitely heard. It's in our questionnaire, the WWJD bracelets. Let me start here. What is your first, how do you first remember the WWJD / what would Jesus do? Was it through a song? Was it through a book? Was it through a bracelet? What is your earliest memory of that, coming into your life?
That's a great question. It's so funny, too, because I feel like for some reason, and I don't know why, it's somehow tied to Forrest Gump, and I don't know why. But it's something in there. I think it was a bracelet, though. I think my earliest memory of a WWJD thing, or just talking about WWJD in general, was a bracelet.
Okay. For me, I think it was the band Big Tent Revival. They had a song literally called "What Would Jesus Do" that was on. I heard it originally on one of those WoW compilations. So when I saw the WWJD bracelets, I legitimately thought that it was Big Tent Revival merch. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I was like, oh my God, this band wrote a song so popular that people were making bracelets out of it. Turns out that this specific phrasing has a very long history. If you had to guess an approximate year in which the phrase "What would Jesus do" first came into the vernacular of society, what do you think it would be?
I'd say late 70s, early 80s.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
So the original concept of "What would Jesus do" is actually based on the Epistle of Galatians. So I guess just Galatians, as most of us call it.
The Epistle of Galatians, yeah.
Yeah, Galatians chapter 2, verse 20, in which Paul says that Christ lived in Christians and was developed with the doctrine of imitation of Christ, or Aminto Christi. And that was in the year 400. Okay. The Roman Catholic Church emphasized this concept of the imitation of Jesus, which could be summarized in the English phrase of "What would Jesus do?" However, Charles Spurgeon, a well-known evangelical Baptist preacher in London, was the first to use the phrase "What would Jesus do?" in quotations several times in a sermon he delivered on June 28th, 1891.
Stop it. That's insane. Yep. Okay.
The Reverend A.B. Simpson, founder of the Christian Missionary Alliance Church, wrote both lyrics and music to a gospel hymn called "What Would Jesus Do?" that is copywritten to also be from 1891 and can be found in most hymns of the Christian life as hymn number 669.
Okay.
But the "What would Jesus do" movement, that whole concept, is specifically attributed to 1896. And a man, I know, I could not believe that most of this is pre-90s where it started, because it feels, it's not even it's pre-1900s, let alone
it's not even of this century, which is, or last century, which is still wild for me to get my head around. But at the same time, You said the 69th hymn?
The 669th hymn.
Almost giggity. Okay.
Almost. So close. So this I actually found fascinating. In 1869, an author named Charles Sheldon wrote a book called In His Steps that was subtitled What Would Jesus Do? Sheldon's novel grew out of a series of sermons that he delivered to his church in Kansas. Unlike previous nuances mentioned, Sheldon's philosophy was shaped by the Christian socialism movement. The ethos of Sheldon's approach to the Christian life was expressed in the phrase, "What would Jesus do?" with Jesus being a moral example as well as a savior figure.
Right.
Due to a mistake by his original publisher, the copyright for his novel was never established, and multiple publishers were able to print and sell the novel, which caused the novel to become very easily affordable and helped it sell 30 million copies worldwide, making it still one of the top 50 best-selling novels of all time.
Wow.
Yeah. Although that sucks because without that copyright,
Yeah.
that just means anybody can do it. Like poor Sheldon
Listen, if
over
you're
there
in-
is not making anything. But
No, he's not. But if you're into Christian socialism, maybe it's, for the best that
the
you
best.
didn't get the copyright.
so in this novel that was translated in 21 languages by 1935, a little bit of dyslexia there. Reverend Henry Maxwell encounters a homeless man who challenges him to seriously imitate Christ. The man has difficulty understanding why, in his views, so many Christians ignore the poor. And then I was provided with this paragraph from it. So this is
Okay.
all being spoken by the unhoused man. I heard some people singing a church prayer meeting the other night, and they said, "All for Jesus, all for Jesus, all of my being's ransom powers, all of my thoughts, all of my doing, all of my days, and with all of my hours." And I couldn't help but wonder as I sat on the steps outside what they meant by this. It seemed to me there's an awful lot of trouble in the world that somehow wouldn't exist if people who sang such songs went and lived them out. I suppose I just don't understand. But what would Jesus do? Is that what you mean by following his steps? It seems to me sometimes as if people in big churches have good clothes and nice houses to live in and money to spend for luxuries and can go on their summer vacations and all that, while the people outside of the churches, of which there are thousands, die in tenants and walk the streets looking for jobs and never have a piano or a picture to put in their home and just grow up in misery, drunkenness, and sin.
Oof. That was 35?
This is from the 1896, just when it was translated in 35.
Okay, we might need to find that book.
Yeah,
'Cause
I got
this
chills reading
sound-
that out loud. I was like, this
Yeah.
is still very poignant.
It's incredibly poignant, and wow, does it feel very prevalent for today.
100%. This interaction between the fictional reverend and the fictional unhoused man leads to the novel's characters constantly asking themselves, what would Jesus do when faced with decisions that have importance? And it has the effect of making the characters embrace Christianity more seriously and to focus on what they see as its core, which is being like Christ. So in 1993, now we're jumping a whole 100 years into the future.
Oh my God.
Garrett W. Sheldon, the great grandson of the original author, and Deborah Morris published "What Would Jesus Do?" a contemporary retelling of Charles M. Sheldon's classic In His Steps. Garrett Sheldon states that his updated version is based on more actual events of the lives of believers. I didn't have time to deep dive into more of that. There wasn't really a lot there. I was looking for more
Interesting, though.
ways that this has come up. At Calvary Reformed Church in Holland, Michigan, a youth group leader named Tina Tinkelberg began a I know, funny name. Began a grassroots movement to help teenagers in her group remember the phrase that spread worldwide in the 90s among Christian youth with bracelets that bared the initials WWJD. So before that became like a mass marketed thing, it literally stemmed from a youth group leader just making bracelets for the kids in her youth group.
not just a youth group leader, but one with like a superhero name of Tina Tinkleberg. Sounds so fake.
Listen, keep in mind that it's me talking and I have a strong tendency to fumble words and not know how to pronounce names. But yeah, I mean, it is, oh my side. I said Tina for starters when it's Gina. But
still
Tinkle, Tinklenberg. That seems like
Tinklenberg.
Tinklenberg, like
Tinklenberg, but still Tinkleberg. I'm gonna say Tinkleberg though. That's amazing.
I think that's the preferred one. I do hate this, and we talked about this, but later a sequel bracelet was generated. This time with the initials Frog. To provide the answer to what would Jesus do. And Frog, do you remember what Frog was an acronym for?
No, I don't. I know we've talked about this before, but I don't remember what it is because I saw WWJD way more than I saw Frog.
Yeah. Fully rely on God.
Yeah.
Really, if what would Jesus do is designed to motivate the person to go and do good things, fully rely on God really paints a very passive existence of, fuck it. God's got it.
Yeah, feels very 2000s era. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I love the original meaning of the what would Jesus do from the book. That's incredible, and so it feels like it speaks a little bit more to like what I believe.
Remember when James Cameron nearly directed a Spider-Man movie?
What about when we almost got Batman Year One with Joaquin Phoenix?
Or David Goyer's Flash movie that would have starred Ryan Reynolds?
Well, if you want to learn about all the unmade superhero movies, then check out Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
Hosted by Ben Wan and Alex Ramsey, every month we cover nostalgic superhero movies with deep dives into unmade scripts, early drafts, deleted scenes, alternate cuts, concept art, novelizations, and tie-in novels.
We also interview the people involved in making the superhero films of our childhood, with our past guests including superhero actors, directors, screenwriters, and concept artists.
So remember, that's Superhero Stuff You Should Know, or Superhero SYSK on social media. Check us out on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
At Maximum Mediocrity, people say things like,
I don't dress like this on the regular basis. This isn't my, pooping uniform. This is not
and they also say things like,
The nurses are usually either angels of mercy or whores.
every episode is a new experience where you get to know people that aren't famous but should be.
Why am I facing Floyd Mayweather in the woods?
My co-host Morgan and I track down the people you didn't know you needed to hear from.
It's like hot sex in a mug.
We are the Maximum Mediocrity Podcast, and we are on all major podcasting platforms. We'll be waiting for you.
I want to ask you, I learned a word that I didn't know. Do you know what a snow clone is?
No.
Okay. So a snow clone is a cliched phrase in which one or more words can be substituted to express a similar idea in a different context, often for humorous or satirical effect. For example, dictator Saddam Hussein's widely publicized phrase, mother of all battles, in 1991 spawned such variations as the mother of all traffic jams. The term snow clone was coined in 2004, derived from journalistic cliches that referred to a number of Inuit words for snow. So basically it's like, we all know these things. So it's a couple noteworthy examples, like in space, no one can hear you blank. You know what I mean? Right. Like the amount of takeoffs of that. Or blank is the new blank. Like these are all considered snow clones.
Straight out of competence. Yeah. Instead of Compton. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like dumb stuff like that. So what would Jesus do, unshockingly, has become a pretty popular snow clone. Including a song in 1916, I believe was the year. Let me just double check this real quick. In 1918, the song What Would Lincoln Do?
No, stop it. That's a song?
There's a song called What Would Lincoln Do?
This?
Published in 1918. I could not find too much about this song. Even the Wikipedia page is sparse. But it was a song written during World War One. There was a lot of What Would Reagan Do stuff in the 80s. And I just love that this is on the Wikipedia page for What Would Jesus Do. They included What Would Brian Boitano Do, which is, of course, a song from the South Park movie.
Yes. That's amazing.
Are you familiar at all with the song What Would Brian Boitano Do?
I mean, I saw the movie ages ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, it is an absurdist song where the boys decide that whenever they're in trouble, they got to think about Brian Boitano, the Olympic figure skater, and what he would have done in that situation. And the song What Would Brian Boitano Do is a fictionalized explanation of his life in which he, has done such things as fought giant bears. Let's see. So it includes fighting grizzly bears in the Alps, using his magic fire breath, constructing the Great Pyramids of Egypt. So it does say that Brian Boitano also thinks that the song's great.
Good. I was actually, that was going to be my next question. I was like, how I never really knew who he was other than like an Olympian and in this song that I knew was ridiculous, but I had no idea what the reference point was. But I'm so glad that he likes the song.
I'll read this real quick because we're on this tangent anyway. It says Boitano's response. In a series of interviews, Boitano has reacted lightheartedly to the use of his name in the song. Having no prior acquaintances with Parker or Stone, he went and saw Bigger, Longer, and Uncut alone with the misgivings of possibly being treated quite harshly in the film. Instead, he experienced hearing the line, "What would Brian Boitano do?" in the film receive appreciative laughter, which he found to be super surreal. Boitano's agent subsequently received permission to make T-shirts featuring the South Park Boitano character, with proceeds being donated to charity. In addition to providing original art for the project, Matt and Trey emphasized their personal respect for Boitano. Boitano, in turn, appeared on the VH1 documentary series VH1 Goes on the Inside South Park to speak to him about his perspective on the show, and he said, "If they ragged on me, I wouldn't have done this show." He has also remarked in a 2006 interview, "It's become such a large part of my life. Kids who don't know who I am or what I even did at the Olympics meet me and think I'm cool because I was part of South Park." Boitano even starred in a TV show on the Food Network that premiered in August of 2009 titled What Would Brian Boitano Make?
What? I didn't know about this.
In 2013, he authored a cookbook of the same name. So...
Wow. Okay. So, man, talk about snow cone or whatever.
Snow clone, yes.
Snow clone. Yeah.
And then the last things that I found, there was so little information about it. And I don't know about you. My expectation is of the next couple things that I read that it is farther from the original beginnings of the phrase. So
yeah, that checks out.
In 2005, Gary Willis wrote What Jesus Meant, in which he examined what would Jesus actually do, which I couldn't find a link.
Really?
Couldn't find a link to this article that he wrote, but I'm sure it's probably not great. I'm just going to assume it's not great. And then in 2010, there was a trio of films produced under the What Would Jesus Do moniker. And I was not. They starred country singers. So again, I'm going to go ahead and just make the assumption. And if I'm wrong, I will be so proud to be incorrect here. But
sure.
I'm going to go ahead and assume that those films do not have society's best interests in mind.
Wild for you to assume that. You know what happens when you assume.
That is true. And look, I would love to be wrong. I would love to find out that I'm absolutely incorrect in that assumption. But
perhaps those are the movies we have to watch next.
No. I'm trying to spare us on movies unless I really think that we're going to get something good out of it because, oof. Like they're
Yeah,
just
there's some rough stuff.
there's just some like boring, slow, preachy movies that exist under the Christian space.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is our very brief history on the phrase "What would Jesus do?" That day, I was like maybe the 60s or 70s. Like
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
I could not believe that it starts somewhere in the 1890s.
1800.
Like that's chaos to me in every.
And what a
possible way.
crazy arc of how it changed with capitalism within America.
Well, because that's like the other, like I want to, let me see if I can pull this up really quick. I want to pull up the lyrics for the song "What Would Jesus Do" by Big Tent Revival. Because like Big Tent Revival for a while was a band I really, really liked. And I still think that they have some amazing songs, but I can't get past the fact that they're the guys who wrote the Choose Life song, which as a young person, I literally thought that it was like a call to not take your own life.
Yeah,
and
an anti-suicide campaign, but it's
and
likely
now I'm
not.
like, oh no. I mean, whether it was co-opted for it or not, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But here's the lyrics for their song, "What Would Jesus Do?" Some people just want to survive, and I don't know about you, but I'm alive. And lately it seems that I need a hand in a fallen world. I just want to stand. So what would Jesus do walking in my shoes, working at my job, and going to my school? I hear the people say Jesus is the way, and I believe, and that's why I'm asking you, what would Jesus do? Like it seems way more like preachy than reaching out a hand. And as we all know, life can be tough, and all that we need is love, sweet love. So where do we go? And here's what I see: to change the world, I gotta change me. Sometimes the choices don't seem black and white, and they can leave you black and blue. What would Jesus do? He'd give his life for you, and if you follow him, you'll give your life to them. So like I don't.
Yeah.
The second verse I don't hate. Like I get a little bit of it, but it definitely sounds like from its humble origins of basically saying like, hey, instead of driving the fanciest car in the world and calling yourself a Christian, how about you drive a modest car and give that money to someone who really needs it so that they can, not die in the streets, because Jesus certainly would have preferred that to be a little bit more of like that. What would Jesus do? He'd hop on a plane and go to a country where they don't know about the Bible and like force that onto people. Like it's like
right. A little bit of a transition. I mean, you literally have a book that's an unhoused person asking like, okay, so God's love is so lovely for you all, but like I'm still out here on the side sitting on the steps.
I'm dying. Like, do something.
I'm dying right now. So, like, what would Jesus do on that part? I honestly feel like we could have like a much bigger like deep dive into all of this, because it's so interesting how telephoned all of this has gone.
It always does. And like, I don't know. It's there's a whole mission team culture is a really interesting perspective. It's one of the things, though, that I've always loved about the church that I grew up in, and I've said this a billion times, but like I think about it regularly. I say it to the kids in the youth group that I sometimes work at, like, you should be preaching God's love all the time, but you should only have to use your words when it's necessary. And like the concept of that being like, just be good. Like, like if people see you doing good deeds and helping people, and then they also know that you like go to church every Sunday and are part of a youth group, like they'll make their own conclusions from that. But the second that you like shove a Bible into their hand, you've already lost the conversation. Like, like they're already turned off. They've already made a decision about you. Yeah. And like, that's just how, and honestly, to quote Rob Bell, like, I don't think Jesus wants that. I think, I love his quote where he said, like, if Jesus came back and saw what we've done in his name, he'd be mortified.
Absolutely horrified. Well, and it's so funny too, because I think there's such an assumption of like what the thought behind Jesus was, just in its base sense, like what the written word was, what he says, and like what his intent was behind everything. And I find it so interesting, even when I laugh at these kinds of things and say like, yeah, Jesus wouldn't have liked that. I'm like,
Yeah.
no one knows. And at the same time, I think at our core, we do know and understand that there is a very big difference between how to preach and how to not yell at someone to make them do something that you want them to do.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm thinking specifically of an example of a friend who just told me that he's a longtime friend, beautiful human being, amazing. His sister is actually very religious, and he himself is gay, and he has a partner, but he hasn't been able to say that his partner is his husband or anything. He has to say it's his roommate to her kids. And the kids are finally growing up, and one of them is 15, and tried to preach to him that being gay was bad. And the conversation that he ends up having with this kid, I think, is one of the most beautiful things. I'm going to try and get him on the podcast, maybe talk about it. But it's so wonderful how he's like, he grew up in the church, but he also is very distant from it because of the way people had treated him.
Yeah.
Because he had to leave home, and he still loves his nephew. He still loves all of his family members. And he's like, that's not going to change.
Yeah.
How they treat me will be how I change my behavior around them. And
100%.
And he had
Good
to have
for
that
him.
conversation with his 15-year-old nephew. And it's gut-wrenching and horrible. And it's everything that when you're 15 years old and you're told to proselytize to everybody, or like you're supposed to turn everyone to Jesus or whatever, and like you think you know the right thing, and you think you know what is right and what is good and what will get you into heaven. And then it just comes out poorly.
Yeah.
And like you're just left in this really horrible, awful mess that's so influenced by what WWJD turned into.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, I hope we are able to get him on, because I would love to hear that full story in detail.
It's amazing.
But I do think we have a nice list of guests on the horizon. So strap in. I'm very excited for what we've got coming up for the rest of
we
this
got
year.
some cool stuff.
So we'll be back with more Christian Cringe next week.
Remember when James Cameron nearly directed a Spider-Man movie?
What about when we almost got Batman Year One with Joaquin Phoenix?
Or David Goyer's Flash movie that would have starred Ryan Reynolds?
Well, if you want to learn about all the unmade superhero movies, then check out Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
Hosted by Ben Wan and Alex Ramsey, every month we cover nostalgic superhero movies with deep dives into unmade scripts, early drafts, deleted scenes, alternate cuts, concept art, novelizations, and tie-in novels.
We also interview the people involved in making the superhero films of our childhood, with our past guests including superhero actors, directors, screenwriters, and concept artists.
So remember, that's Superhero Stuff You Should Know, or Superhero SYSK on social media. Check us out on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.